They say capital markets are the barometer of any economy. All of us here know that. And, what makes an economy what it is a combination of fiscal policy that affects growth and development, and monetary policy, basically to, as His Excellency the Governor of Edo State, my senior brother, and of course one of us here told you. Stability, price stability, which comes as a result of good monetary policy. Well, the truth of the matter is this. After a great extended period of lots of liquidity in our markets in a bid to stimulate global growth, global growth is receding for a couple of reasons. One, the monetary authorities across the world realize that the markets are overheating and the economies are overheating and you have to calm them down. And unfortunately, due to globalization, Africa cannot exclude itself from the low growth period that the world is about to experience over the next 3 to 4 years. So that is context when you talk about African capital market potential. And whilst we look out for those who, when growth recedes, the ties recede, and we're going to see some people who are naked, when the markets are liquid, it kind of masks whether we're wearing clothes or not. But when the markets, when liquidity recedes, you see many interesting things. But I want us not to be distracted by that. Because there's one interesting thing about African capital markets or African financial markets and global recessions. Check this out. There seems to be this cycle for building back better in Africa in response to global market volatility. And I think it's because when the world suffers, somehow our fiscal and monetary authorities know that there is no time to mess around anymore. And because of this, across every African market, or at least those that are run in a democratic fashion, I expect that there are interesting things to come. And the drivers of these interesting developments for our markets are as follows. One, of course, is the fourth industrial revolution company. If you check the GDP growth indices of most African countries, you will find that one clear superstar is information or media, communications, largely GSM companies, and of course, technology. And I see in this room a number of representatives of those sectors from an issuer standpoint. And I think that those are the new companies to watch. Along with, interestingly, companies in the agri sectors that are doing interesting things driving through sustainability. Another driver is market infrastructure. Watch two things across Africa. One is, of course, technology as a means of delivering a new market infrastructure. And the other, also interesting, is identity management. Because identity management is going to change the customer experience. When you hear about capital market operators and capital market structure and frameworks, get ready for UX, UI, and CX. Customer experience, user experience, user interfaces, and things like that. Because things are really about to change. In relation to that, of course, is financial inclusion. Across Africa, the capital market users and investors, when compared to those who use banking services, are a fraction. That is about to change. That's about to seriously change. And with it, of course, the rise of the new investor in Africa, which is the retail investor. Whilst we may see the reality today of digital assets as a very volatile asset class that must be watched, nonetheless, the number of Africans, almost numbering in their over 100 million, that have adopted that asset class, less because of the hunt for gold, and more, of course, because of a search for stability given the volatility of exchange rates. The reason why it has been so easy for us to move from 0 users of digital assets to about 100 million across Africa is simply because those markets and the exchanges by which you access those assets are using 21st century technology. And of course, as the more traditional markets learn from this, expect a big change. I think we're going to have improved regulatory frameworks. His Excellency also spoke about the Securities and Exchange Commission in Nigeria. Their counterparts across Africa are also doing quite fascinating things and expect to see changes. The one thing that this room must push for are much stronger operators. If we don't have much stronger operators, Africa will not have Morocco's, let's put it that way, getting to the quarterfinals and the semifinals, and we keep ending up at the group stage. We need stronger operators. I love the professional services firms and what is beginning to happen. And it's a pointer to regional consolidation. Nigerian law firms opening up shop in Ghana, Nigerian law firms opening up shop in the UK, and so on. Expect a lot more of that. Of course, new asset classes, derivatives, commodities, and all types of interesting things. I think that crypto is not gone for good, for instance. And then finally, we need to come back home. I've told you that markets are a barometer of the economy. And as we go through a new cycle of changing leaders across Africa, because we tend to cluster elections around, most elections in Africa take place within 2 years of each other. Our elections are in 2023, and thereafter, over the next 2 years, close to 40 countries across Africa will be changing their fiscal authorities. That is, of course, going to also influence choices around monetary policy. One thing I urge everybody in this room, you the elite, you have a lot of power, a lot of influence. And you have one vote, but you have voices that influence several votes. Make sure that whoever is coming is good for our markets. Thank you, and God bless.